Hi, I'm Greg Schaefer, and welcome to the Virtual CISO Moments. This is our 196th conversation on the Virtual CISO Moment. Very excited about that. And excited to have Josh Graves on with us today. He is the Director of Business Development at Foojee. Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I know we actually met at a chamber commerce last fall, I believe. I think I had a table doing the promoting the my virtual CISO service and also the small and mid-sized business book, information security book. And I know we had a great conversation then. Was glad to that you were acceptable for being on the podcast. And so I want to hear your story. I want to hear why you got into technology and what led you to your position today.
Love it. Yeah, awesome. Well, my story is going to be a little different than a lot of other people's stories when it comes to security. And it's going to start in an abnormal place, which is starting in Apple retail.
Hmm.
Right out of high school, actually, I started working at Apple retail and worked there for 7.5 years and found myself telling all of the Apple things and being an Apple evangelist and talking about Apple all day and every day and loving all things Apple. And then I actually transitioned out of Apple to Foojee, which is
Hmm.
part of what's called the Apple Consultants Network. And suddenly my eyes of Apple and security and tech and everything just went, whoop, everything open, wide open. And now as Foojee's director of business development, which I've been in this role for about 3 years, the amount I've learned about security in the last 3 years is absolutely incredible and absolutely insane. So that's kind of my journey to where I'm at now. Fuji is a full service MSP exclusively focused on servicing Apple small
Hmm.
businesses. So security is a whole new thing to me over the last 3 years, but obviously a very, very important thing in my role at an MSP.
It's kind of like in some ways it sounds like that you got dragged into security in some ways, and I always joke that that's actually the way it was for me as well too, and that was probably about 20 years ago when I realized I was starting to do less about computer networking and the technology side than the security side. Well, what was it though about Apple initially that you were attracted to working with Apple back in the day?
Yeah. So I grew up in an Apple household,
Hmm.
meaning we didn't have any PCs in my house. We had all Apple products from childhood all the way, everything. I've never owned a PC actually, now that I think about it. So I was an Apple user, and then just the Apple experience and Apple retail stores, like the Apple stores, especially back in like early 2000s, 2010, when I started Apple in that time frame, they were just such a cool place to be in. They've changed a lot since then, but it was so cool, and I just wanted to be part of that experience and part of that environment. So it was the Apple products, the people, the energy, all of it, and then of course, like I said, growing up with nothing but Apple products, it felt like a natural transition to get a job there.
And I have to admit, I've never owned an Apple computer myself. I've been I love the iPhone. I've been almost exclusively iPhone. Well, I have been exclusively iPhone for at least 10 years now.
Yeah.
Went through all of the iterations. I had an Android. I had a compact. I had a BlackBerry. What was the compact called? I can't remember, but that was like 20 odd years ago. But I actually am a little fascinated about the Mac arena, and I'm in the market for maybe buying another machine in the next year or so, and I'm starting to consider it. But I want to hear a couple of things. I want to learn some stuff, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later. But from your perspective, working for, you said, an MSP that is focused exclusively on Apple products. I'm assuming you work with a whole variety of businesses, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Small to medium businesses. We have clients that have two employees and two users to 180, 200 users. So anywhere in that size.
So from that perspective, then, which is a unique perspective, because I've never had someone who's from an MSP that's solely focused on Apple products and service small businesses like that. What do you think is really the most significant threat or threats to either their information security or their cyber security from your point of view?
It's such a good question because there is one very, very specific answer,
Hmm.
and it is the false sense of security that those small businesses have because they're using Apple products.
Ah, this is a good conversation. I want to hear more about this.
This is by far the number one threat to small businesses using Apple products is they think that their computer is totally secure and that Apple has made everything so perfect that they don't have to think about security at all. If you are a consumer user just using a Mac to surf the web, just having some fun, using it for email, that's probably true. But
Hmm.
for a small business that, especially now we're looking at work from home, remote work, and these computers being connected to just a home network, the amount of risk has gone way up, but the users have not yet realized that.
So when you say the amount of risk has gone way up, what type of risk are they facing in this particular environment using Mac products?
Great
Apple products.
question. So, malware and ransomware is one of those things that a lot of Mac users think, well, my computer, it can't get viruses. It can't
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I've always heard. It's like, well, Mac can't get a virus, right? And I know this is not an official Apple marketing campaign, but that
Right.
is that prevalent thought out there. Well, how did that thought first get started?
That's such a good question because I don't even know either. Like the idea that a Mac it's impossible for it to get a virus. I don't know if that phrase ever got officially said by Apple, but
Mhm.
everyone knows it. Everyone has heard it. Everyone knows it. Even people like you who have never owned a
Yeah.
Mac, you've heard the phrase.
I think maybe one of the ways that it might have come around is that um, I'll spool back 10, 15 years ago and we talk about market share and back then, Microsoft had the lion's share of the market. It was probably a good like 9-1. I'm just guessing back then. And so because Microsoft had such a larger share of the market, then Microsoft was a larger target. And so then criminals would be like, well, where are you going to focus? Where you're going to focus where you have the most chance of getting something
Yeah.
exfiltrated. So why not go for the larger target? But that kind of like dovetails with we always tell small and mid-sized businesses don't think that you're too small of a target yourself, regardless of what technology you're using. That sort of conversation and thought is really a risk in and of itself, right?
I mean, absolutely. Like this is the shift that's happening is that there is no one too small to be attacked or to have some sort of cybersecurity incident. And I
Hmm.
think the real reason why and the threat for a Mac user that they don't consider is that the threat isn't that someone's going to hack into your computer. That doesn't actually happen that often. The
Hmm.
real threat is that you click on a phishing email and you give away your email password. And then now you've given away your credentials to your entire business by doing so. So,
And that can happen no matter what platform you're on, right?
exactly. And with
Yeah.
everything moving to cloud based systems and everyone using either Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 for their email, well, now it doesn't matter. It's the let's say the bad actors, they're agnostic. They don't care what device you're using.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter anymore. They're going after your information, not after the actual device.
And so, what kind of protections then does a Mac? I mean, does it have like it's obviously you would have your regular antivirus, but that wouldn't really come into play if you're clicking on a phishing link and you're giving up your credentials. Is there
Yeah.
anything security controls wise built into the Mac that might like flag a bad site or might flag the behavior you're doing and say, hey, are you sure that you're logging into the right site? I ask this from a position of really not knowing as much as I
Yeah.
should as a security professional about the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah. When it comes to things loading via the internet, like you just described, you clicked on a bad link, you go to a bad website. Safari, which is Apple's default browser, does have some really great protections built in from the
Hmm.
jump that will stop those malicious websites from loading and stop you from downloading files that you shouldn't be downloading. Or there's also Apple, of course, is known for all of their privacy and restrictions and things. anytime you ever want to download something, there's a pop-up to confirm, do you want to download it? If it's from an untrusted source, the Apple ecosystem is going to pop up a big window that says a huge like disclaimer of what not to do and what to check for. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some and really great built-in protections, but a lot of people don't use Safari. A lot of people use Chrome. We know that
Right.
Chrome is the number one browser. So we actually, for our clients, we do the whole.
I'm using Chrome right now,
Yeah,
recording this.
I'm using Chrome because the system we're using requires Chrome. I tried to open it in Safari and it didn't work.
Well, that's a StreamYard problem. You all should complain to StreamYard about that. It's like,
Hey,
well,
I'm used to it. We
uh-huh.
are always catering to everyone else because we're the black sheep. We're the Apple user. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, I know that's sort of like a side topic, but it's like if something is accessible over the browser, it should work in all browsers. Or maybe it's because that Safari has higher security controls in place that's causing the issue. In which case, well, that's an example of why Safari might be a better browser. I'm not endorsing or not endorsing any product here or anything, but
yeah, Safari, when it comes to security, is really, really great. There are other
Mhm.
ones that are even better, though. And that's where it's really up to a small business to make those educated decisions about what tools you're using. Because again, just the Mac alone is not enough. So we use things like DNS filter to protect our end users from being able to get to malicious websites no matter what browser they're on. We use a
Mhm.
tool called Avanon that stops spam and phishing emails from ever even getting delivered. So we're taking all of those steps to stop that end user from ever getting to somewhere malicious. That way they can just continue to use their computer as normal.
And that helps to educate the end user in some way too, right?
Oh, when I have calls with Mac small businesses and I start telling them about all of this, they go, I need all that? And I go, need is an interesting word. Let's talk about why it would be helpful. So it's
So
eye-opening for sure.
yeah, and then that probably will prompt a risk type conversation. Well, you don't technically need it, but you can reduce your risk of getting dinged by this much if you spend this much on this particular product, and then that becomes,
Exactly.
even for the small business owner, a business decision. Well, okay, $25 a month for another tool to make sure that, I've reduced the chances. I think the one thing that we need to do in security in particular as far as selling is to sell solutions and not products,
Mhm.
and because we've got this reputation, it seems like, of like, well, we can fix everything with a tool. It's like
Yeah,
it's really like you can't fix everything with a screwdriver. You have to know how to use a screwdriver. You have to know the
totally.
right tool for the job, right?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we like to say is the tool is only like 20% of the solution.
Hmm.
The other 80% is the human being behind the tool, making sure the tool's working, using the information they get from the tool to make decisions, acting upon the information that they
or,
get.
or yeah, or even just using the tool. I mean, there's so many times that if it's a bad tool and if it like pings on all sorts of things that we call in the industry false positive, then eventually it becomes noise and you just click right through it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we actually have a security operations center that we work with to monitor our emails and traffic and phishing alerts and spam alerts. And a human being checks every single one to make sure that there are no false positives or that there are none that get through that shouldn't have gotten through. So the tool is good, but it does take that finesse and that touch to make it actually work.
So from a market standpoint, if you know this, you may not, but from a market, just a market sales number standpoint, what's the most popular antivirus that is used for Mac today?
Great question. So, Malwarebytes is by far the one that we hear talked about the most.
Hmm.
And Malwarebytes is a great option. It's actually one that I don't know if Apple still uses it, but when I worked at Apple, this was a long time ago. But when I worked at Apple and companies or people came in with malware, with ransomware, something on their computer, we would just run Malwarebytes because it was so good, quick, and easy to make it work.
And
Um,
I have used Malwarebytes for I don't know, 15, 20 years now.
right.
I love it. It's like a default thing for me to have on my systems.
Exactly. And it's a default thing for Mac users at this point too. There are
Hmm.
some other tools. There's Clean My Mac, which does some security pieces. There are other ones that people get ads for, and they're good. But really, the one that we're actually going to be shifting towards here in the very near future is Sentinel-1. Sentinel-1 is by far the
Ah,
strongest,
okay.
best tool. And the nice part about it is that it is device agnostic. There's a Mac version and a PC version. So we can, for our clients that do have a mixed environment, we can actually use the same tool across the board.
So I mentioned a little bit. I'm going to put you on the spot here, because you are business development. So I mentioned a little while ago that I was considering purchasing a new tool. This is really more so in support of my one-person business, which is not VCSO Services, which is a sponsor of this, the sponsor of this podcast, but it's my own single-person consulting business, and I am seriously considering a Mac instead of Windows. Why should I buy a Mac?
Man, that's such a good question.
I'm.
So,
This is a softball one for you, man.
well, I don't know if you'll like my answer. The answer that we always give when somebody asks that question is we go, well, what are you going to be most efficient on? And that's really the golden question is where are you
Ooh.
going to be most efficient? Now, I'm a proponent for Apple because I think you would be more efficient using a Mac for many different reasons. Things like software updates. They are easy, fast, included. You never have to really think about it. They can be scheduled and just happen overnight, and you don't even ever realize it. And your computer's always up to date, and they're also always free. That's a really, really nice upgrade, is that you don't have to worry about those types of things. And it's plug and play. It comes with a lot of the tools that you need. But for you, Greg, specifically, the thing that I think you would love about using a Mac is the integration it would have with your iPhone. Phone calls, messages,
Ah.
FaceTime. If you want to take a note on your iPhone, it is constantly saving that note and you can open it on your Mac and go exactly where you left off. You can actually copy something on your iPhone and paste it onto your Mac. So
Securely.
securely, it is doing
Okay.
it device to device. So
And I can't do that with Windows right now. So at least I don't think
not
I
that I
can.
know
Yeah.
of. So
Well, now that's a good point. Okay.
the value of a Mac to an end user is the ecosystem, which of course is what Apple wants. They want you to get into their ecosystem and never leave. But I find when I don't have my computer, I can do everything I do on my computer pretty much from my phone and vice versa. So that connection between those two devices allows me to work more efficiently, allows me to get done the work that I need to get done every day. So
But
I
there
think
now,
you would love it.
now from a business perspective, though, I mean, I don't think that Apple yet has an equivalent back office platform like Google does and like Microsoft 365. So I would still have to use the Mac with 365, wouldn't I?
Great question. So it does come preloaded with Pages, Numbers, and Keynote, which is Apple's version of all of
Uh-huh.
those things. And they're free and they can export into Excel documents, open Excel documents, and all the other versions. That being said, it's still not Excel. If you're an Excel power user, you've got all your macros, you've got all your shortcuts and everything, you're going to want Excel. And the good news is Excel works on the Mac. All Microsoft Office works on the Mac, especially post COVID. When everyone went to work from home,
Like
Microsoft
Teams.
realized, oh, we don't control what the computer is that the user is using anymore. We need to make sure that our tech works on everything possible.
Okay. So I could still run the 365 stuff that I do, which I usually just do most of it through the browser anyway, and I
Yeah.
could, use Safari for that. Um, but what about learning curve? So you're talking to someone that has had Microsoft embedded in his brain since DOS 3.2. So you're talking 40 years of being basically attached to Microsoft. And I consider myself a pretty good learner. I mean, I was actually probably learning Linux before I was learning Windows. And I know that I believe the Mac OS is more or less built on a Linux kernel, right? Um,
That I
I-
don't know as much about because I know it's also changed since Apple Silicon has come out and it's all different now.
Oh, okay, okay. But for a very old in both years of use and just general chronological biological age, for someone like me, how difficult would the learning curve be to learn a Mac?
Yeah, I don't think the learning curve would be that hard. I think the actual issue would be the muscle memory because to close a window, it's in the left corner, but on your PC, it's in the right corner.
Oh,
So
yes, yes. You got the three dots up there in the left corner, right? Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So there's going to be the learning curve is actually the muscle memory where you're so used to clicking in this section of your screen for this service. And you're
Uh-huh.
like, oh, it's the opposite side now. I have to go over there. So that would take some time, but the tools, the systems, you can use Chrome. You use Chrome on your PC, it will feel just like it. You can use Microsoft Office, it would feel just like it. But you would also get those added benefits of continuity between all your devices.
Well, you've given me a lot to think about. You know, a lot in our industry is stressful, and one of the things that I don't want to do is to add more stress
Right.
to an already stressed life. I promote on this podcast that we need to do things to decompress, and I don't know, maybe once I breach the sound barrier, if you will, with my Mac knowledge, then I will reach that utopia of things being a lot clearer. But I promote though that in all seriousness that we need to be doing things that are healthy to take care of ourselves in this industry. I know all industries have their stress points. I get that, some more than others, but we definitely have our share of it. And so I promote on this podcast that people should take time to decompress. Is the word I like to use. Josh, what's one of the things that you do to decompress from the stresses of what you do?
Yeah, great question. I mean, one of the big benefits of working at Fuji is that our owner and founder, 16 years ago when he founded Fuji, has made this part of the core principle that, hey, we're not going to let work impact our personal lives and take over absolutely everything. And that time off from work is actually time off from work.
Mm.
So the things I love to do, I have a pool in my backyard and I have a 4.5-year-old. That right there over the summer is basically what we're going to do all day, every day, as soon as we've got any free time. Just spending time with my family and getting to hang out, play outside, get some sunshine, and get away from the screens. I'm in business development. I'm on video calls, phone calls, and on screens all day. So any way I can get outside and get some sunshine is always a good way to go.
I hear that. I love to do that too. I actually, talking a little bit about the because you're in the Middle Tennessee area, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in
Um,
Nashville.
okay, and I'm down a little bit south of you in Franklin. I went out yesterday. I hadn't really gone biking, mountain biking, using my old Gary Fisher, which was acquired by Trek, like I don't know, 20 years ago. But I still have the Gary Fisher, and went out to mountain biking trails up at Smith Park down there in Brentwood. And it was the one time during the day that they had the trails closed. I was so upset. So I was thinking about going today, but of course, this being Middle Tennessee, what do we have this afternoon? We've got thunderstorms because spring. That's just it's the way it is. So
It's the world we
um,
live
I.
in.
I don't know how much sunshine we'll have today, but hopefully we've had a string of a few days that's been really good. What about your future plans, Josh? What's coming down the road for you?
That's a great question. I don't know. I currently love my job, which is something I'm very happy to say because a lot of people don't love the job that they do
That's
40 hours a
awesome.
week.
Yes, that's awesome. So,
But I love my job and I see lots of potential within Fuji to stay here and grow and but also business development in other companies, other roles could be in my future. But the other thing I'd love to do is do more speaking engagements and more podcasts and just get in front of people. I love people. I love talking. So my future is hopefully getting in front of more people and getting to help them see what a Mac run business could look like.
well, you've all heard it now, my podcast host brethren. If you're looking for a guest, Josh is up. He wants to do it, wants to talk about security and Apple products. Josh, it's been a great conversation. Really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Glad that everything's going well with you, and look forward to chatting again in the future sometime. And thank you for the advice on Apple products. Appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're ready to buy, let me know. I'll help you make the right decision of which computer to get.
I'm going to take you up on that. Trust me. Everybody, stay secure.